What it do, YouTube? It's your boy Mike from NYC. We back with another reaction. Today we are reacting to using numbers to find the greatest individual season in NBA history. This is going to be an interesting one. First thing that comes to mind is Michael Jordan winning MVP and Defensive Player of the Year with averaging 37 points per game. That's the first one that comes in mind. Now, to what extent are you taking in championships? Like, does it have to be a year that somebody won a championship? If it's not going to be a year that somebody won a championship, it's probably going to be that 1987 season. If it's not that season and it had to be a year somebody won a championship, it'll probably be that year that LeBron was in Cleveland and they went on a 33 game win streak. He won MVP. He came second in Defensive Player of the Year. It could be that one. Could be Shaq's year where they went 16-1 in the playoffs. It could be that year. It could be Michael Jordan again in 1996 when they went 72-10. 1986, Larry Bird, maybe. I can't think of anything else.
If I asked you throughout NBA history who had the best individual season and what year did it take place, what would your answer be? Can a season truly be great if a player doesn't lead their team to a championship? What about empty stats, or years where players put together incredible seasons but didn't walk away with the MVP? Just like many other fans of the game, I've always wanted
Steph Curry's year, when they went 73-9, 30 points per game, 40, 50, 90. That was a crazy efficiency. That was an absurd fucking year. Watching that in real time, like, that was the only season that I was actually watching basketball. Like 2012, I wasn't I was watching basketball, but I wasn't really watching it. Like, that 2016 season though was fucking insane. Harden has had some really great years, but that 73-9 year is crazy.
Who truly had the greatest season in NBA history? If we were to somehow add up all the things that a player did throughout a season, their impact and value, and condense all of it into one number, some sort of value or greatness score, then we could determine who had the best season of all time. And so that's what I did. A formula to decide who had the best individual season in NBA history. And not only did I find that season, but it was so great that no other season comes even close.
Wilt? Is it Wilt Chamberlain?
Today's video is brought to you by SeatGeek. A new NBA season is upon us. Just look at it. Ain't it beautiful?
SeatGeek don't speak. If you read and I teach, you already know. Let me down on the flow. All fours. What's the problem? You got a problem on the side.
SeatGeek makes buying tickets easier than ever before with a rating system that lets you know which tickets are. And it's football, baseball.
I might actually tap in with SeatGeek, low key. I might actually tap in. $20 off your first SeatGeek order. So if I get a ticket that's like 20 bucks, that's low-key getting a seat for free, low-key. You go to a nice little sneaky Knicks game when they playing like the trash, whoever's, that's low-key a come-up, free game. Come on, you can make a whole day out of that. Come on now.
Off your first order today.
Talk to me nice. Yeah.
With the 2023 NBA season going completely off the rails with big games, huge numbers, and record-breaking performances every other night, I had to gather myself and put all of this madness into context. How historic are these seasons really? Where do the individual performances of this season rank among the greatest season performances in NBA history? Well, in order to answer this question, I had to create a basic formula that factors in everything on an individual level throughout a season. But first, I had to determine what numbers and awards actually matter and which ones don't. For example, winning the MVP is the greatest individual award a player can win, but there have been countless amazing seasons.
Oh, Hakeem Olajuwon! I forgot about Hakeem. MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, and championship, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Who else has that resume? Who else has won a Defensive Player of the Year, MVP, and championship? Nobody ever else has done that, I don't think. It might have to be Hakeem. It might have to be Hakeem.
Which players did not win the award. So we can't use this as a metric to measure how great an individual season really was. I also had to exclude statistics that were
oh wait, Tim Duncan? No, Tim Duncan don't have one. All right.
Skewed by team performance, like win totals or even stats like offensive and defensive rating. We are, after all, looking for the best individual season. So after much deliberation, I narrowed down the criteria for the best season ever.
Nah, I gotta see that crossover again. That crossover, that crossover will never not be captivating. It will never not be captivating. I'm sorry.
Individual season. So
Yes.
after much deliberation, I narrowed down the criteria for the best season ever to these 9 factors. Points, rebounds, and assists. If a player was selected to an all-defensive team, if a player won Defensive Player of the Year, if they led the league in one of the 3 major statistics, player efficiency rating, win shares, box plus minus, value over replacement, and just to spice things up, All-Star Game MVP. The total number that a player achieves from these 9 metrics is their season score. The higher the score,
Interesting criteria. Nothing else really matters but the criteria, because the criteria makes up everything. Defensive Player of the Year, 10 points, 1 point for every point, rebound, and assist they average. Player efficiency rating. Okay, Jokic might be really high. Win shares, value over replacement. League leader in points, rebound, or assists. So each one, so if you lead in points, hypothetically, if you led in points, rebounds, and assists, that would be 15 points. All defensive team selection. Well, if you're first, shouldn't that be more points than if you're a second team, technically? Like, you know, just saying. Box plus minus, and then All-Star Game MVP, just to spice things up. I feel it, though. This is not a bad criteria. I don't really know. So he didn't use championship. Whether or not you won the championship is not factored in the criteria. So if that's factored in the criteria, it probably is Hakeem Olajuwon, because the Defensive Player of the Year and the All Defensive Team it got to be Michael Jordan or Hakeem Olajuwon, because it has to be. It's probably MJ. It's probably MJ. Yeah, it's probably MJ.
later this season. And before we get started, I want to point out a few things. As I stated before, I did not factor in MVPs in this experiment because there's been far too many incredible seasons where players were not crowned the most valuable player. Like in 1989, when Michael Jordan clearly had the best season that year, but Magic Johnson won the MVP. Another thing to keep in mind here is that most statistics that are available today have only been around since 1975. So any great season that took place in the early 70s and 60s was excluded from this experiment, which actually shouldn't even be a problem since a lot of NBA fans act like those seasons never even happened anyway.
They do act like that. They do disrespect. But it's cool though, like, you know what I mean? It's tough. It's tough, man. Imagine niggas like Wilt dropping 100, scoring 50 points a night, just for somebody to be like, that don't count. That's crazy.
Another major factor that I left out was postseason success. And I know this will be a controversial decision, but in order to even make it deep into the playoffs, a great player still needs a solid supporting cast, or else he has no real shot to win it all. An obvious example of this is Nikola Jokic last season with the Nuggets. One of the best individual seasons of all time.
Facts.
Just to be knocked out of the first round of the playoffs in a gentleman's sweep.
Facts.
Despite what a player did or did not accomplish throughout a season, we are looking for the best season from a player who had the biggest impact on the court game after game. And after spending countless, mind-numbing, migraine-inducing hours.
Hey, yo, go to Jimmy's video, like his video, man. He's putting in pain. He's putting in pain. He's reaping the rewards, but he's putting in pain, bro, because I'm not doing this. I won't do this. I sit here and react and talk my shit and whatever, and I can remember some seasons and I can remember some NBA stuff, but he really in the trenches, like he really in the mud, in the dirt, getting it out the dirt. Show love on his video. Fuck my video. You know what I'm saying? I'm just sitting here talking. Show love to his stuff. If you watching this after you finish or even before, you want to click off now, go to his shit, show love, because he going crazy.
Searching through hundreds of seasons from any and every player who even had a shot at putting together an all-time year, I have found the single greatest individual season in NBA history. And it's a season that was so good, no other season by any other player comes even close. But I want to give some perspective on these season scores and what a good season looks like, what a great season looks like, and what an all-time season looks like. Back in 2018, LeBron James finished second in MVP voting and had one of the most complete all-around seasons of his career. In hindsight, some fans even believe he should have won the MVP that season. And according to our metric, that year LeBron James had a season score of 109.7. This is a great season by any standard, nearly an all-time season. season. But James Harden rightfully took home the MVP with a season score of 112.4. In 2015, Steph Curry won his first league MVP and put together one of the most memorable seasons in recent NBA history. That year, his season score was 97.3. In 2006, Kobe Bryant had statistically the best season of his career and achieved a season score of 119.1. And yet, Steve Nash won the MVP that season with a season score.
Hey, we don't even have to talk about that. Like, if we're talking about who's better and we're saying, oh well, Kobe only has one MVP, I'm done. Like, I'm finished. We're done talking. We're finished. Because if this is what we're gonna say, oh, 19 and 11 is better than 35 for like all in an all NBA team, even if we just took only offense, Kobe is producing probably more points just with the 35 points, even without the assists, than Steve Nash is getting a points and assists. If you do, let's say, 20 points, that will be like 38 points that he's generating, maybe like 40-ish. Kobe's scoring 35 points with no, like, that's insane.
Just 84.1. But these numbers are all relative. A season score of 20 is about league average. A score of about 45 is what you would find in a quality starter. A season score of about 65 is an all-star level season, and a season score of 85 is an all-NBA level season. And once a player gets into the triple digits, a season score of 100 or more, they are well on pace to earning an MVP. But even a score of 100 is nowhere near what a player must accomplish to even crack a top 50 season of all time, because the 50th greatest individual season came from James Harden in 2018 when he piled up a season score of 112.4. In fact, here's a chart of the top 50 individual seasons in NBA history according to our season score metric. The first 3 seasons to crack the top 50 all came from James Harden in just a 4-year span between 2017 and 2020. Michael Jordan was so good, so early in his career, that even his rookie season made the list as the 42nd best individual season of all time. Tracy McGrady put together his best season in 2003 with a season score of 115.3. Hakeem's 1994 campaign lands at the 35th spot of all time, and just above him you'll find Steph's unanimous MVP season in 2016. Nikola Jokic achieved a career-high season score last season with a total of 120.3 points.
The fact that James Harden and Steph Curry are on here without the defensive accolades, because a heavy part of his list was whether or not you were all defensive. And James Harden and Steph Curry being on this list without the defense is crazy. Jokic as well, like, so props to them.
23rd best individual season of all time. But Giannis actually scored just slightly higher than Jokic did last season with a season score of 120.9. Russell Westbrook's MVP year is the 17th best individual season of all time and easily the best season of his career. Keep going up and we'll find the best seasons from some of the greatest players of all time. Dwayne Wade in 2009, KG in 2004, Kareem in 76. In 2020, Giannis put together one of the greatest seasons ever with a season score of 129.8, just behind LeBron's 2009 season, which turns out to be the best individual season of his career, where he earned a season score of 130.2. And after this mark, we enter the Michael Jordan zone, where it's a whole lot of MJ reeling off some of the best individual seasons of all time, year after year.
What kind of year did David Robinson have in 94? For him to be above 1993, 1996, 1991, and 1990 MJ, what the
Right at the top are the 3 best individual seasons of all time. David Robinson's criminally underrated 1994 season, Shaq's masterpiece in the 2000 NBA season, and Michael Jordan's 1989 season that earned him a season score of 137.7. Hold up. There's one season missing here.
1987.
Oh. There it is.
Oh, 1988.
Michael Jordan's 1988 regular season.
Same thing.
Regarded as
I know what I'm
the
saying.
greatest of all time. And that's because it is. With a season score of 154.8, Jordan's 1988...
Now, the fact that nobody else is in the frame is kind of like... It's low-key spooky. That's low-key spooky. The fact that nobody else is in the frame is spooky. Look at this.
There's one season missing here.
Nobody's in the frame.
Oh. There it is.
Wait, what was it? 137? Yeah.
Season missing here.
That's spooky.
There it is. Michael Jordan's 1988 regular season, widely regarded as the greatest of all time. And that's because it is. With a season score of 154.8, Jordan's 1988 campaign is the greatest individual season in NBA history. And it's not even remotely close. But I want to take a deeper look at these results because they reveal some interesting things about what we know.
Hold on. Okay, how many I want to see how many Michael Jordans you got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 Michael Jordan years. 11. How many LeBrons? You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Michael Jordan's on here 11 times and LeBron's on here 5. I mean, that's very interesting. It's very interesting.
And what we thought we knew. Some all-time legends that didn't even have a single season that made the top 50 list include Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Tim Duncan, Charles Barkley, Dirk Nowitzki.
I'm kind of surprised Tim Duncan didn't make it. But all of these dudes aren't great defense. In order to make his list, you had to be a great defender, which is why I'm surprised Tim Duncan didn't make it. But Tim Duncan never averaged 30 points a game for a season, so I guess.
And many more. On the other hand, there have been a handful of players that have had multiple seasons that cracked the top 50. These players include Michael Jordan with 11 top 50 seasons of all time, LeBron James with 5, James Harden, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and David Robinson with 4 apiece, Kareem and Garnett with...
James Harden got 4? Niggas gotta talk different when it comes to James Harden.
And Hakeem, Kobe, Jokic, Shaq, and Chris Paul, all with 2 top 50 seasons each. But the most interesting thing that these numbers reveal is that the second best individual season in NBA history didn't even earn an MVP. Michael Jordan's 1989 season ranks second all time among season scores, and somehow he still finished second in MVP voting that season behind Magic Johnson, who earned a season score of 103.
That's pretty ridiculous. What was the team record? I'm curious to what that is. Wow. He averaged 10 more points, 4. Let's just say 5 less assists. Let's just say the same amount of rebounds, 1 more steal, more win shares, better plus. Like, that's crazy. And Magic didn't even make all defensive team, while Michael Jordan did. I don't know, man. I don't know.
9. Still a great score, but nowhere near the season Michael had. And if you take a look at their numbers throughout that season, it's clear that a robbery took place here. Same thing happened in 1990 when Michael Jordan put up the 5th highest season score in NBA history and finished not second, but 3rd in MVP voting behind Magic Johnson and Charles Barkley. And again, the numbers are clear as day. This MVP should have gone to Michael, and it's not even close. Now, the idea that Michael Jordan and LeBron James should have probably won more MVPs throughout their career.
Imagine Michael Jordan with 11 MVPs. Imagine, even if it was just like 8 or 10. Imagine him, because Magic's not even on this list. And Magic got 2 MVPs over him. Now, could you say what a criteria might be flawed? Maybe you could argue the criteria might be flawed. And that when it comes to individual seasons, defense isn't as important as he's labeling it. Like, yes, defense is half of the game, But you would take the best offensive player in the league over the best defensive player in the league. No question. Like, that's not even a question. You would take a player with A++ offense and C defense a million times over than you're taking a player with A++ defense and C offense. That's not even a question. So, yes, is defense important? Yes, it's valuable for a team to have a great team defense. But individually, it's not as important as an individual having great offense. So, you know, I guess you could say, okay, that being taken into consideration, you know, maybe Magic might have earned one of those MVPs. That's why the MVP argument to me is just like, I don't really know where to go with that, you know. I don't think his criteria is perfect, but I think it's a decent criteria. Yeah, Michael Jordan with 11 MVPs would be insane.
Becomes even more glaring through the lens of this season score metric. But of all the
But also, these are the same people that vote on all defensive teams. So you gotta, it's hard. You gotta take all these all NBAs, all stars, MVPs. You have to take it with a grain of salt. The fact that Steve Nash has an MVP without being an all defensive player and averaging under 20 points per game, that's fucking ridiculous. I don't give a fuck what nobody says. So you do have to take every award, everything that is voted on with a grain of salt.
That made an appearance on this list, only the 2009 season features 3 players who all put up top 50 seasons of all time. That year, LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Paul all not only had historically great seasons, all 3 of them put up top 25 seasons in NBA history. As I spoke about before, in most seasons, a game score of 100 will give a player a real shot at winning the league MVP. CP3, D Wade, and LeBron all had season scores of over 120. But with this NBA season being flooded with all-time talent and incredible performances every single night, are there any players that are putting together seasons this year that would crack this all-time list? We'll have to make a couple estimations here because some stats within our metric like VORP and win shares are cumulative stats. But at their current pace, here are the projected season scores for the best players in the NBA this season, with the top 5 season scores coming from Luka, Jokic, Giannis, Embiid, and Tatum. And if a season score of 100 warrants a real shot at the MVP award, then there are currently 6 players who are all having an MVP caliber season. But in terms of cracking the top 50 list, only Luka Doncic and Nikola Jokic are on pace to making the cut. In fact, Luka is on pace to racking up a season score of 123.1, which would earn him the 15th best individual season of all time, right behind LeBron's 20.
Damn, niggas gonna knock James Harden out of there. You're going to pack up one of James Harden's seasons.
And Nikola Jokic is on pace to having a season score of 116.4, which would land him at the 38th spot all time. And after gathering data from hundreds of seasons of dozens of players, I got to thinking about peaks. Who was the best when they were at their best? Some players have maybe 1 or 2 seasons that stand far above any other year they've put together, like Tracy McGrady in 2003 or Russell Westbrook in 2017, while other players completely control the game on an individual level season after season. So here is a chart of NBA legends and the combined season scores of the best 5-year stretch of their career. For example, Isaiah Thomas's best 5-year stretch came between 1984 and 1988, where his total season scores throughout those years was 379.3. Damian Lillard's run from
It's interesting though, because the way that the game is played now is now that I'm really thinking about it, it's very different because the game is catered more towards individual scoring. Like the pace of the game, we look at the 80s and the 90s, like teams are scoring a similar amount of points. But if you look at the top 10 scorers and you look at the top 10 scorers from the 80s versus now, the best player on the team is scoring more points now than they did in the 80s. And so I think that says more about the style of play than it does about Like, obviously, they're great players. They're still having great seasons. But I think it just does say more about the style of play than what you would think it does. Like, LeBron James is averaging more points now than he did in Miami. Is he a better basketball player than he was in Miami? No, he's not. He's averaging more points, probably a little bit more assists. At least when AD first got there, he was averaging more assists, and he's on par with rebounds at a higher field goal percentage. So by that logic, LeBron is just way better in year 18 or 19 than he was in year 12. Like, that's simply not the case. I just think that the way the game is played, it caters for more of the top. It's more top-heavy scoring. It's more of like, okay, the top 2 players get the most buckets and then everybody else find their way, versus maybe in the 80s, you know, and even in the early to mid 2000s, it was more of a collective. Okay, the top player gonna get 20, the second player gonna get 18, the guy under that get 13, another guy get 12, another guy get 10, another guy get 8, another guy get 7, versus now it's like the top dude gets 32, then the dude under him gets 20, then the dude under him gets 14, then the dude under him gets 7. It's just like, I think it's just more about the way the game is played differently, because it's more it's more spacing. And so with more spacing, it just is like, okay, it's more one-on-one play. You say, all right, more spacing, you got a guy in the corner, wing. I don't want to give up an open three-point shot, so I'm going to let your best guy go at it. Versus in a situation where in the 80s, where you got a guy in the box, you're going to rotate, because it's just different. Like, it's hard to explain, but if I'm in the paint, if you got 2 people in the box and I get to the paint, obviously I'm going to help, and I'm going to be more likely to kick it because I'm already right there. Like, the reward or the punishment for helping is significantly less, because I don't have to run all the way back out to the three-point shot, you know? So I just think the game is played a little bit differently, which is why I think that it's I think Michael Jordan's 37 points per game is far more valuable than James Harden's 36 points per game. It's way, like, every point by an individual in the 80s was worth way more than it is today. Like, the inflation on points is crazy. Like, James Harden is not anywhere near, well, let me not say anywhere near, but James Harden is not the scorer at all that Michael Jordan is. He's not. But the way the game is played, a 5-out offense, you can kill one-on-one. When you look at the way Michael Jordan played, when you look at the way the game was played, you were forced to give up the rock. You were forced to dump that down to the block. You couldn't just finish over everybody. You had to dump that down to the block. Now, I got shooters here, You really want to come all the way from the corner to help? It's a totally different game. When Michael Jordan was scoring the way that he was scoring on multiple people. Isaiah Thomas, being that he was 6 feet, was scoring on multiple people. High floaters in traffic. Like, the way Isaiah was scoring was way more valuable than the way somebody like a Chris Paul was scoring. Not to even say that. I'm not even giving an opinion on whether or not Chris Paul is better than Isaiah. I'm just saying that each bucket by the best player in that time was way more valuable buckets. It just was a different game.
17 to 2021 earned him a total of 438.9. Just above Magic Johnson and Moses Malone is Karl Malone, who is the first player on this chart to crack 500. Nikola Jokic is currently in his best 5-year stretch and has a total score of 508.8. But this number will jump much higher after this season, somewhere around the 540 range. Kobe, Hakeem, and Bird all had similarly great primes in the NBA, ranging from 514 to 518. Tim Duncan is sandwiched right between Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant. Our first big jump occurs with James Harden's run between 2016 and 2020. And after these marks, we get into the very best individual runs in NBA history. Shaq in the early 2000s, a young Kareem, a mind-boggling 5-year individual stretch from David Robinson in the mid-90s, Giannis's current historic run dating back to 2018, and LeBron James at his absolute peak from 2008 to 2012. Just 5 points shy of cracking the 600 mark. Possibly the greatest Jordan didn't exist. Because from 1988 to 1992, MJ rattled off 5 of the top 16 individual seasons of all time. By far, the greatest stretch of seasons we've ever seen from any player, earning him a prime total score of 680.9, leaving him in a league of his own, even amongst the greatest players in NBA history. Hope you all enjoyed, and as always, until next time.
And it's funny because when you look at these top dudes right here, got LeBron, Giannis, Kareem, David Robinson, Shaq, Garnett, James. And it's funny because I still stand by what I said. Like, even if his was like right around here, like, I still would hold it in a higher regard. But the fact that he's just that much higher than everybody else, being with everything that I said, I mean, it's just like, it's crazy, you know? Because, like, I actually watched, like, once I watched, it was like, for me, like, I'm good. Like, once I actually saw his highlights, like, niggas be like, oh, you can't really get a feel for somebody watching highlights. Like, I don't care what nobody said. I've been watching LeBron James for the better part of a decade now. You cannot, like, he cannot do the things that Michael Jordan was doing. I'm not trying to disrespect LeBron. I'm super excited about LeBron passing up Kareem. I'm hype about LeBron passing up Kareem. But I'm just saying, like maybe you could say LeBron was greater than MJ, but nobody was better at basketball. Nobody was better at basketball. If you want to use better versus greater and whatever, nobody was better at basketball than MJ. So this, you know, is not really shocking. Like, I was shocked when I saw the footage. Like, that's when I was shocked. When I saw the footage, I was like, nah, I ain't gonna lie, you wildin'. Like, this is OD. I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen one grown man dominate another group of grown men like this, but not in a physical, like, not in a brute strength kind of way, like, not in a Shaquille O'Neal type of way, not in a Wilt Chamberlain type of way. Just like, it was just like he was literally Super Saiyan. Like, he deadass was Super Saiyan. Like, physically, like, in terms of speed, in terms of quickness, in terms of athleticism, in terms of jumping ability, in terms of skill, in terms of precision, in terms of mastery of footwork and mastery of a jump shot, and like having probably one of the most, maybe not the most aesthetically pleasing jump shot, definitely a top 10, just perfect. Like, I think Carmelo Anthony has like a prettier jump shot. Like, the way he jumps is like a more aesthetically pleasing. But like I don't think you had a more perfect jump shot than MJ. Like, the way he played the game and the way he made the people around him look, it was something that, like, I couldn't personally imagine. Like, the shit was crazy. The shit was out of control, man. But yeah, I'm not really surprised. The only thing I'm really surprised about is David Robinson. I didn't know David Robinson was really hooping like that. KD, I didn't really expect KD to be in here, but maybe I should have. I mean, KD is top 20. I didn't expect John Stockton to be in here, but maybe I should have. D Wade, I'm not really surprised that he's here, but you know what I mean? I wouldn't say that I expected it. Scottie Pippen, I'm a little surprised. Dame, I'm a little surprised. Jason Kidd, I'm kind of surprised. Kevin McHale is probably the most surprising. Kevin McHale is probably the most surprising person on the list. Because where's Larry Bird? Oh, yeah, Larry Bird's up there. He's like 5'18", okay. But the fact that he had a teammate, like Michael Jordan and Larry Bird are the only people on this list to have teammates on this list. Well, Kevin Durant and Westbrook, okay, so that's 3 duos. Shaq and Kobe, that's 4 duos. Karl Malone and John Stockton, no, that's some good amount of duos. Kareem and I assume Magic's on the list. Kareem and Magic, no, there's some good amount of duos on here. Actually, I actually lied. Curry and Durant, no, there's a lot of duos in here. I actually lied. Tim Duncan and David Robinson, low key is like mostly duos. Low key at this point. At this point, it's mostly those. I think this kind of, I think it's hard to explain this type of context. Like, when you look at the numbers and you see what LeBron has been doing for how long he's been doing it, it's hard for the casual fan to be like, LeBron's not better. Like, how, like, and I heard Nick Reich say, like, as history goes on, we're gonna be like, how do we consider Michael Jordan the greatest? But I think as time goes on, people are going to not watch the footage as much. Like, there's people alive today that still watch Michael Jordan and can, like, testify to how demonic he was on a basketball court. Like, he was a walking demon. Like, he was a killer. But as time goes on, like, you know, people aren't going to be alive that watch him. Like, 30 years down the line in 2050, like, there aren't going to be as many people that watched Michael Jordan that can testify. And so people are just going to go to the stats. Well, what did Michael Jordan put up? Michael Jordan put up this, LeBron put up this. Oh, well, LeBron's better because LeBron put up better stats. Like, if you wanna form your basketball opinion based off stats, then, you know, do you. But, you know, I guess this would be a stat that favors Michael Jordan, certainly. Like, it just shows how dominant he was. Like, it really does show how dominant he was. Like, how sharp his peak was. Like, if Michael Jordan had a mountain, it would be more like this. Like, his peak would be so pointy. Like, if you touch it, you might get cut. But LeBron's is more like it's almost like a you know what I mean? It's like, it's a little bit more round. It's not as sharp. It's still sharp, but it's not as sharp. Michael Jordan's just like pointy. But yeah, man, definitely let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you when I see you. Peace.